and welcome back. We're about to start our third of the fourth workshop for today. This one's called Stereo Imagery on the Looking Glass. It's being presented by Dave Comeau. And I'll tell you a little bit about Dave. Based in Brooklyn, New York, Dave is a stereographer, hacker, reverse engineer, and futurist. He grew up with a fascination for Viewmasters and rediscovered 3D in 2001 when he realized in a dream that digital stereo video was easily achievable. In 2010, his contributions led to Star Wars Uncut, winning an Emmy Award, scene 458 to 473. He is currently secretary of the New York Stereoscopic Association and probes the digital beyond through experimentation in virtual reality, XR, photogrammetry, and brain hacking. Okay, Dave, please take it away.
Thank you, Rick. Right, so I'm just going to try to blast through some of this, and hopefully we will get to things. If we don't, I'll be in Gather Town afterwards. Okay, Looking Glass. Looking what? First, I don't work for the company in any way, but there's a company that's a few miles down the road from me in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, called Looking Glass Factory. They're good folks. They make a compelling product that enables me to hack and do fun stuff. So I wanted to just try to show you some different ways to use it. So I guess that was a really great background, but I like gadgets. I like to try to bend reality. And I really like stereo 3D because you get that one extra eye, that one extra bit of information. So we can see something from two different perspectives. And this looking glass that I'm going to talk about allows you to see an object or a scene from 45 to 100 different perspectives. So the idea of occlusion and something hiding behind something we can't normally see is one of my main interests in the device. And I've always been curious about lenticulars, but I'm just not sure I have the patience or some of the physical and artistic skills. So this is like a digital lenticular lab that can sit on your desk and you can try out things without the initial cost of the additional cost of materials. Another reason I was interested in the looking glass is to use it. Another reason I was interested in is to use it as a volumetric monitor for software that uses 3D modeled objects like Unity, Unreal Engine, or Blender. We talked a lot about the VR seg about using Unity to build worlds for VR. And so it's easy to translate these worlds into a little tiny environment in the looking glass sitting on the desk right from Unity. And those stereo 3D objects would still need a little investigation. But anyway, so you'll see in a second, there was a previous model. So talking about the brain things, I used the looking glass to make a version of the Princess Leia hologram by filming a friend with a volumetric depth camera. And that shows up with depth in the looking glass. And that was meant to be a sequel to my project at 3D-Con in 2018, which you can see here on the screen, which was a Princess Leia Pepper's ghost, and then also a projected phantogram right there. Okay, so what is the looking glass portrait? So on the looking glass website, you'll go and you'll click there. You'll see that there's a couple options, the tiny one, the bigger one, and then the biggest one. So let's look at the prices. Okay, so those prices are maybe gonna figure out or help us sway our decisions. So right now, I believe it's at, I'm sorry, let's see, it's $299. It was on a Kickstarter for a little cheaper, so a bunch of people out of the audience got one and are waiting for them to come in the mail. So that's kind of what led to this presentation. So, right, so these are bigger, and this one you actually have to call them for a quote, and so you know that that's designed. It's an 8K display, and it's probably pretty amazing. This one is pretty cool. It's a portrait mode, so you are going to have to crop. It's 1536 by 2048, right? So, but stereo people are probably used to cropping for a different medium anyway. And just to point out really quick, this is a way to crop in the Stereo Photomaker, right? So the aspect ratio I have on the left is this 1536 to 2048 translates down to 3 to 4, if I did the math correctly in the middle of the night. So what I did there is I just went to SPM and I chose that aspect ratio. Now I can draw and I can crop, and now I'm ready to do full screen. The looking glass, the software that they give you also allows you to crop, but it's better to probably, I think, do it beforehand for the maximum resolution. So On the left is the new one, this looking glass portrait. On the right is this is the older one, which is a big block of lucite, and it's really dirty. And I apologize to that Carlton, because it's Carlton's machine. But yeah, so the left one here is this is about 1.5 pounds, and this is about 5 pounds, I think. It's a big chunk. And so the left one, I'm not going to get into the technology, but basically it's a screen with a mesh on it. I believe it's a micro louvered display which shifts the subpixels, and it's inside a mirror box. And I've heard that if you take it outside of that mirror box, it still looks pretty cool. And another thing to mention is you can run it in desktop mode, so you can plug it into a PC. And if you have a beefier machine, like you're using Unity or Blender, then you can take advantage of that. Or if you just need to transfer files over to the looking glass, you can have a lesser kind of machine. You can find full specs on their website. But the other cool trick is that it also runs in standalone mode. So it runs as essentially a slideshow picture frame. And there's this tiny Raspberry Pi inside of it that's running everything. So it is hacker friendly. If you can do Raspberry Pi things, you can use it, or you can try to hack into it. You can also hook it to a USB battery pack for wireless playback. So that's a nice feature. And there's 3 buttons on the side: up, down, and play, pause. Okay, so just what I'm going to cover is we're just going to talk about depth maps really quick and run through them. We'll talk about the software that Looking Glass gives us for importing content, and then also the different options. And I'm going to talk about Stereo Photo Maker and how we can use that. So I want to go kind of beyond what they give us. So we're going to talk about depth maps. And where are we on time, Rick? Are you there? That's fine. So let's just go forward. So a depth map is just an image that contains information relating to the distances of seen objects from a viewpoint. So given an object, we can have an image associated with it that represents how close the objects are to the camera, right? So these are closer to the camera, so they are lighter than things in the far background. So it's all about relativity. So if we look at, say, a mountain range at 10,000 feet up here, and then we're the sun, so right, it's 10,000 feet, and we go all the way down to ground level. If we turn that into depth maps for the computer, it's a I think 8-bit grayscale. So we translate that into values from 255 to 0 as opposed to these actual elevations. So if we were to take this mountain range, make a grayscale map like that, which is what it is over here essentially, but flipped, or not flipped, I'm sorry. So yeah, so this is the depth map. If we were to take a photo from on top and then drop it onto this, we kind of get a volumetric-y object, right, that has depth, and we can display that in the Looking Glass. And then I just say that we can also inverse the depth map as well. So this is one thing you can get into the Looking Glass. You can take an image plus the depth map. So they call that RGBD. This is actually from a stereo pair that I took, and I converted it to get this depth map. But you can see, and I'll show you that quickly a little bit later. And so you can see this is white, so it's really close. And then of course the objects in the back are all black. So just here's another one. So I think I just say, like, what can you do with the depth map? So there's a couple things you can, there's a bunch of features for depth maps over in the Looking Glass, and I've done workshops on that, and I can send a link to my workshop online. But this is just to show that you can do a lens blur on the whole thing, right? So I blurred the background using the depth map. You can actually create a stereo pair if you only have a 2D, and then you can just make a depth map, right? So I have this 2D I got from the internet. I made a depth map. I went into Stereo Photo Maker. I said, hey, create a 3D image from a depth map. And here I've created, if you want to put your anaglyph glasses on, can't see if people are doing it, but hopefully you are. So I always like to say a conversion is conversion. So you're never going to get that extra bit of information in the one eye. It just simply doesn't exist, right? So this little bit of Europe or whatever over here is never going to appear for you because we don't have that information, but it does a decent approximation here. Okay, we can also create a Facebook 3D photo. So I don't think I really talked about that. So there's that in the slide if we want. we can also display the images in the looking glass, or we can print the lenticular images. And so we say, how do we create a depth map? You can start with a 2D image, and then in Photoshop, you could manually do your artwork. You could go and make a gradient shape in that dropdown I showed you in SPM before. Right, so this is just, you can go down, you can make a ball. Okay, a smartphone actually can take a depth map. So if you go into portrait mode on your smartphone, your iPhone or your Android, you choose portrait. And what I did in the phone here is I said, oh, let's make the background black. And it used the depth map that it created and did that on the phone. When I copy the JPEG over, all of this information of the depth map is stored in the metadata. And newer phones get better, have better technology. So this has LiDAR on the newest phone. And so you can see that the quality of the depth map is a bit better. And that translates when we put it on the looking glass. So I mentioned we can also start with a stereo pair. So there's something called DMAG by Ugo Capetto, which is great. And I'll try to get a better link to put in the chat. And but basically you hook it up, and within Stereo Photo Maker, it'll go and launch DMAG, and then you can go and do these settings up here, and then you can click and you can create a depth map from the stereo pair. And I think these stereo pairs look a bit better than the conversions. So there are some AI conversion that I cut out of this, but it does a convincing job, but not as good as the two versions. The side by side is what I mean. So just looking at, this is a thing called HoloPlay Studio, which you can download from Looking Glass. This is what you want to use to get things into your Looking Glass. So you plug your Looking Glass into the computer. You can see a playlist of everything that is listed in here and the length. And then you can click and say add hologram. Now, right now, let's get out of the way, whether you agree with using the term hologram in this sense or not. I don't think it takes away from the cool things that the device can do. So just take that with a grain of salt. They call them holograms, and we move on. So we click add hologram, and here's that iPhone portrait photo mode. So you can click on that. You can bring in, like I showed you before with the picture of me, that automatically has the depth map. You can also do the RGBD photo and video. So like those photos that I showed you with the image and the depth map, here's where you could just add those. You can also do video, but I'm not going to talk about that. So you'll have to have converted your video into a depth map movie, and there is software for that. So essentially what you do here is you just say import file, and then it puts it into the playlist, and then you sync the playlist over to your device. And then when you disconnect your Looking Glass portrait, it can just kind of run in a standalone mode. So if you put along your anaglyph glasses, sorry, did I share this for? I may need to go and change to share for optimize. Where's that? Come on, quick. Optimize for video clip. Okay, cool. Next, okay. So there's a quilt. That's the third option. The quilt is, I'm just going to open their page because it tells a good, decent what it is. So this is a way to share your images between people. So this is, they'll kind of tell you like, this is the first view, this is the second view, this is the third view, and all of these different views combine together to give us that view that we saw before in the Looking Glass. So you can read more about the quilt, and just because what happens when we sync it over to the Looking Glass, what it does is it uses the device, the special calculations inside of a device. Every device is different. And so it makes a video, which is basically like a lenticular video, and it puts it onto the device. So it's kind of copy protection only for your device. Not meant to be that way, but that's how it turns out to be. So what really interests me is that occlusion, like I talked about before. So we want to get a series of images, and then we can actually see behind real objects. There's no conversion involved. This is probably close to your typical traditional lenticular image. So the easiest way I found is I have an iPhone 11. I put it on a little dolly car. I capture a video at 4K, 60 FPS. I extract all the images as JPEG or bitmap, and then I align and correct rotation and crop in Stereo Photo Maker. So Stereo Photo Maker has all these nice tools. There are some better tools like After Effects, which are more pricey, but Stereo Photomaker is free. So here is this homemade rail that I made out of these drop ceiling pieces and an erector set and this little dolly car. And I have a link to that in the chat. Is all of this better than buying a real rail? Certainly not. I recommend buying a real motorized rail. You're going to get probably much better results than me, but hey, this is cheap, and I like to be frugal. So anyway, yeah. So if someone can mute, I hear a little background. So this little car is cool because it has the remote. We can click on it, and so I can click, and it just kind of moves along, does its thing. So I want to start it at the very left edge of my photo, move it across, and then stop it. This actual little car, and there's a link to in the device, you can also twist these front arms so that you can do a circular image, or you can do an arc capture. And it also has this little thing on the bottom. It has exposed wheels, and actually that's exposed wheels so they can fit on an off-the-shelf rail that's not motorized. So I talked about occlusion. So this is down in Greenpoint. This is down in Industry City in Brooklyn. So see if you can spot the security guard. It's in anaglyph and in this resolution, you can't really, and even on the real device, it's a little hard to see. But the thing is, that's not the back. But what I want to show is that, so I started my little rail from the left, and you see this post that's in the way. So as we go across, then I started thinking, oh, I wish I had done it so that I could, so that I had something in back of it. But this little blob is actually a security guard. So when you have it all the way on the left, you don't see him. And then when you move your head to the right, suddenly some hidden information that wasn't readily available in there. So that's really why what excites me kind of a little bit, maybe more than the conversions on this. And here is one in anaglyph again of Iron Man in a store in Manhattan. And it's nice, you can see the actual Darth Vader in the back. And the way that this was when I first started taking pictures of these for the older looking glass. And what I actually used was just a rail from a drawer. It's a little greasy, but it worked. So I just attached the camera on the one end, and then I just slowly kind of slid it across. You can just take your phone and manually move it with your hand, or you can use a stabilizer like this. Some places don't let you bring in a big slider. This one I kind of could smuggle in. So, but yeah, if you can get a nice straight kind of rail line, then you can do those images. So that's fun. Okay, so this is just a picture of like a real kind of slider that's motorized, and Looking Glass Factory actually sells one as well if you're interested in doing those. Let's see. So that doesn't come. I didn't do the order, but that's just a picture of that little dolly car that I showed you earlier. And those links are in the chat. I'm not going to go into detail about Looking Glass depth options or Looking Glass things, but there are some features in the Looking Glass or in Stereo Photomaker that allow you to do some Looking Glass manipulation. So that's that. Create the image from the depth map. You could do it in here. This used to be the only option, but now the other software is kind of catching up. So you can still use this in the meantime if there are things you want to do that you can't do with the company's software. So once I've done that, so I made that images of the arches. I make that 4K 60 FPS movie. I want to find the spot where my subject is in the center, and then I want to trim the beginning and the end of the range. Let me just go, let's bring this up. Okay, so that's not that. Where are you? Here you are. Okay, so on my page, if I go over to the slider tree, what I did is I took this video down at the Greenwood Cemetery. All right, I don't know where it is. There it is. Okay, right. So I just kind of ran across, and this one I think I used the stabilizer. But so what I did is I went and we go in and I get the entire sequence, and in Magix, which Greg will talk about later, I went and looked at the images, and so I count the images. So I have 355 images after I've extracted them, and I have a script for extracting in the chat as well. But so I look at all the, I have 355 images. That's more information than Looking Glass can use. I think there's software you can just throw a number at it and it'll just try to figure it out. But what I do is I just bring this up in a new window, and then I say 355 divided by, say, what do I want, 45, or maybe even less, because there's diminishing return of images, so 32. So I'll line it up, and then I'll just say, oh, well, we want this range. So I'll just kind of take this column, right? I'll select that, and this is, I don't know what this is, that's 52. Okay, so I'm getting these different views. Once I do that, then I can pop over into Stereo Photo Maker. And I think I took a picture. A lot of these options you'll find are down in the multiple images. So there's this, this is basically to remove the panning effect. You can try without removing it, but I've had good results using this fashion as well. And lenticular people, you probably know a little bit more about that than me. That first option, what I do once I've gotten them all and they're moved across, the camera might shift a little bit, right? The slider might have some problems, so I want to really align everything. And so what you can do is align to a series of images. We can use the auto alignment feature. We go to File in Stereo Photo Maker, auto rotation adjustment, and we choose the auto alignment setting down here. And what I do then is click on this drop down, and I choose, instead of the regular 3% we would want for regular stereo photos, I bump it up to 10% because I think we have a little bit more room to play with on the Looking Glass. So we do that, and we choose a new folder, and we adjust the selected files once we're done making that setting. So then we end up with a new bit of, what did I do there? Oh, I stopped that. Okay, so we end up with, let's jump to the end. Sorry about that. We are almost done. Plus we can cut this out in post. So I'll talk a little bit more about maybe those features in the Gather Town afterwards in Stereo Photo Maker, because it's pretty cool. I'm just not sure I can bring the screen up in this fashion. But I want to talk about two other little bits of information that are nice. Okay, finally we get to the end. So there's a gentleman named Milan who's done some really cool presentations and whatnot. And you definitely, by the way, want to check out the Looking Glass Discord. So the Discord is, I put that also in the chat. A lot of interesting comments, and it's just a discussion about the Looking Glass and different people. And he's made this small application which allows you to drag an MPO onto the image. Now I skipped. Oh no, I showed you the quilt, right? So we know that a quilt is all of the different images that are being shown in the Looking Glass. But what this MPO to quilt does is it takes an MPO file which contains a side-by-side image, and it just puts 6 of the left and 6 of the right. Maybe not in that order, but that basically turns our Looking Glass into if you look at the anaglyph on the right, it turns our Looking Glass into a traditional auto stereo viewer of a side-by-side pair. I don't think Looking Glass Factory had this in mind when they did this, but hey, it works. Now, what you have to be careful of, though, is that your audience may be expecting to see that depthiness, so you can't just throw one of these into your slideshow. You may want to have a separate section. So this is a picture of my friend Nagi that I had actually made a depth map from the stereo pair, right? So, and you can see the mirror a little bit on the sides. That's that mirror box I'm filming. But so this gets the depthiness, but it won't be as sharp where things are wrapped on the depth map. So the image on the right, you get sharpness, but it's only a stereo pair. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Masuji has a bunch of really cool web apps that are on there. And so you can just drag your images over to like on the looking glass. I have like a minute, I think. So let me bring that up. Guess I didn't make that clickable over here. Let's take this. Okay, so a lot of this is designed for the previous model of the looking glass. So some things, I think things work well on the portrait, but you may want to just keep that in mind. And some things work a little better in the application for the new portrait than they may equivalent on here. But if you want, you can click on this and then you can like drag this Chrome window over to your looking glass when it's set to the computer. And then you can click on the button and it just says, oh, you have no looking glass connected. But what this will let you do is drag a quilt onto this screen. And he's got images, or he's got applications for depth maps, et cetera. So you drag it onto here, and then you drag it over and full screen it on your looking glass, and then it just works. So this definitely, if you have a looking glass, go and check out these links. Thank you. That is my time. I'm Dave Comeau, and I'll be in Gathertown afterwards. And here's my email address if you have any follow-up questions. Do we have a time for 1 or 2 questions?
Yeah, you have 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. All right. Q&A time. So did anything show up in the chat? I don't even.
Let's see.
Somebody wanted to know if it would be better for curved.
See
I don't
that?
think it will, but
Yeah. See that? I don't know. I'm trying to think if I have done. The one that I did that was curved didn't really seem to be a lot better. So I don't totally know about that. And that
I can
go ahead.
I
Eric.
can address something. It will work. Alex from Looking Glass Factory has used a curved track before, and I've done some Looking Glass images using a turntable.
Oh, cool. And what I want to find is they just pasted something. They put a link up. I might have passed it where, I sent it in the chat. If someone can, I can bubble that up. I can just paste that in the chat. They did post something about light field capture. Yep, here it is. Just recently, and they don't have anything about arc capture. So here's my screen. So they just talk about linear capture. And they try to kind of say, these are the spots where you're moving from left to right, I think. And then this is what you're seeing. So you want, that's kind of going to be the viewable area. And these things have to align. But anyway, check this out, and then you can get more information about it. There's some math involved. But the previous page says the arc is coming soon. So we can find more about that.
Okay, and it is time for the next. Ron Labby has his hand up. Do we have time for one question?
I think so. I think we had to do the
okay
bumper.
Sure.
Oh, you're muted, Ron.
Muted.
So quick question, why not, instead of doing movie mode, just do burst mode? And so you're getting higher res and you can control shutter speed and all that better.
Well, honestly, the burst mode now that you have to swipe to the left or the right or something on the iPhone is a little bit harder. And plus you could do that if you were doing it by hand. I know Paul Johnson does that for lenticulars, but then he aligns it in some more fancy software. So if you want to be running a smooth automatic situation, you probably want to use the movie thing. And I think that that resolution is definitely plenty for this one, and it's also great for the other looking glass. Because keep in mind, you're getting the resolution kind of shrunken down by the the number of views you have.
Right, but yeah, I mean, I don't have an Apple iPhone. I have an SLR, so
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely you could do that. And then if you want to align it better, that's perfect.
thanks.
Cool. Do we want to move on to Greg Perez? Thanks, everyone.
Rick's running this, right?
And Rick's muted at the moment. I'm going to paste those links in the chat. Okay, I pasted links in the chat. I'll try to get them on the website too.
Rick Chomsky, can you unmute yourself?
Oh,
Sorry, it's my fault.
okay, you should be good, Rick.
Okay, I'm going to introduce Greg Perez. I'm going to be showing a video of his workshop. As soon as I get it queued up here. All right. The workshop coming up is Introduction to Magix Premium Pro 2021, the basics of creating a 3D show. Greg Perez has been photographing in stereo since the early 80s and has recently taken up VR. He's a longtime member of NSA and the Puget Sound Stereo Camera Club. He's now retired and living near Wichita, Kansas. He is currently co-chair of 3D-Con 2022 to be held live in Tacoma, Washington. All right, let me do screen share.
Hi, I'm Greg Perez. I'd like to present this workshop on Magix Movie Edit Pro, particularly the 3D aspects of using this program. Video editors are pretty complex, but I'm going to keep it simple, and what I'm going to show is first how to do still images into a video slideshow. Then I'll show some clips with a synced twin rig, and then two independent cameras that use motion sensors to start the recordings. So let's start with sharing my screen. And I'll open up Movie Edit Pro. Okay, the first thing that happens is this dialog opens up. You can either load a previous project or start a new one. So we'll start a new one, give it a name, and it'll do for now. Okay, next thing, so you want to pick a project folder. It defaults to the Magix folders. Find that hard to find sometimes. So I'll go to a folder I made up. I made one called Slideshow Workshop. Okay, so I know where the project file will go. And the next thing is you set your resolution. Now, if I'm doing still images, my still images are pretty high resolution. So I can do ultra high, 2160. That works well for stills. My cameras are 1080p, so I set this for HDTV, and my camera is 30 frames per second. and then you can pick the resolution. So I go to full HD. Next thing, here in options, there's this click box, copy media to project folder. What this does is it copies all the still images or the video clips to the same folder as the project file. And what this does for you is after you're done with it and you want to archive that folder somewhere, everything goes with it. So if you want to go back and revisit your show, you will have everything together. Because if you don't do that, if the project file gets separated from all the images, it won't know where to find the images. You won't be able to rebuild it. So if you ever want to go back and edit or add or do something new with it, even something as simple as changing titles, everything will be together. Takes up a lot of space, but I have an 8 terabyte hard drive on here, so I have plenty of room. So once you've done that, you can create your project. Okay, I have some. This is your import window and where all your images will be. I have some still images here. What I've done is I've named them in the order I want them in the slideshow. So to make it easier on myself, I go in and organize my images and put some sort of tag on there so they'll go in the order I want. And I'll have different folders. If I have different subject matter in a group of photos, then I'll divide them up in folders. And the other thing is that I have edited all these in Stereo Photo Maker and Photoshop or Topaz, so they're all ready to go. And I have saved them in side-by-side format. So I'll click all those, drag them down here. Okay, now the first thing, Magix does not know these are 3D images. It just sees this as a side-by-side. I have my viewer here set to anaglyph. You can also do interlaced. I have a 3D monitor, so I could do interlaced, but I usually do anaglyph. And I'll highlight all of these. And I'll go into effects. And I'll go down to Stereo 3D section and properties. Up here, I will choose side by side, left image to the left, full width. Okay, now it knows it's a stereo image. Have your 3D glasses handy. You can check it out and see how the stereo is. Like I said, I've already set the window and done all my alignment beforehand, so I don't need to worry about that right now. The next thing, I'll move this over a little bit. Okay, and in effects, go up here, go to titles. Have this first one selected. Okay, I'll just put in title. And I can change the font size. And I spelled title wrong. I always do that. I don't know why. I don't care right now. So you can have it overlap the image, or you can drag it. Why is it doing that? Let's see. You can also, this is something new, but I'm not going to worry about it. You can drag the title up here in front, in which case it will be freestanding. I'll have to look into this. This might be the new, something with the new version. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Right now, if you go back into stereo properties, you'll leave this as standard 2D. But if you put your anaglyph glasses on and you move the slider, you can change the depths. So you can bring it out. So if your title is interfering with the image, you can bring it out. You can also set it back. So I usually bring it out a little bit so it stands out. Okay. Next thing you can do is you can set the length of your, how long your images are displayed. Right now it's here for 5 seconds. I usually like to do about 7 and click on here. Okay, let's highlight all of these. Click on that. Okay. If you have them all clicked, you can say apply to all. And that'll have the display for every image the same. I mean, you can set a different display time for each image if you want to. Say okay. Change all selected. Now you can take what you can do here. There's a little half circle. If you drag that over, it'll create a fade in. And you can do a fade out. These are overlapping a little bit. Do a fade out. And then a fade in on this one. The other thing you can do is drag it over. In that case, it does an automatic crossfade. It will fade out and fade in. And do that with this. You can also go to your transition, and you can use, fancy ones. So there's all kinds of different 3D oriented transitions, and you can also set the transition length. So I usually set it to about 3 seconds, and you can apply to all. So all the transitions are about the same. You can add your titles, and anyway, that's about all there is to it. You can go into YouTube. If you go into YouTube and help, down towards the bottom, there will be audio files. You can find royalty-free music, which you need to use for YouTube, or indicate that you own the title, or it won't let you do some things. So you just drag your audio file down here into this line, and then you can adjust the time to match your music or whatever you want to do. So you can also add music, have a whole slideshow with sound. And that's about it for just doing a slideshow. It's pretty simple. Now we'll get into some video editing. I'll get rid of all this instead of starting a new project. Okay, so I'll go back into import. And I'll pick, this is video shot with my Samsung Twin Rig. Now in my twin rig, one of the cameras is inverted. That's pretty common with twin rig cameras. To be able to bring the lenses closer together, you flip one over. So my first image will be rotated. Don't worry about that right now. Okay, so it's upside down. Go into effects, and in view animation section, there's rotation mirror. And flip, and then I can flip it. Now, what I need to do here, for some reason, if I just add my right file, it doesn't want to do the alignment because until it's saved, it still thinks this is upside down. So I have to go in and render this. And I'll go to export movie, video as MP4. And here you set your resolution, frame rate, ratios, all these things. Also, your folder, where you want the image to go. So I'm not going to do that right now because it takes a little bit of time. The important thing is this one I want to have as standard 2D. Because it's not stereo yet. Okay, so I've already done this. I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to delete that. I'll go back to import, and here's my rotated file. So here I am. Here, this is my left image with a soundtrack. Now I'll go get my right image and bring this down here. Okay. And you can see the images side by side. This looks like it's pretty well synced. There's some differences. I think I was having a little trouble with my sync on the day I shot this, but that's okay. We can work with this. So first thing I'll do is I'll highlight both images. I'll go into effects and into stereo. Okay, now these are two separate images. So I will go to stereo pair left image first. That tells it that it is these two tracks are a stereo pair. Next thing I'll do is I'll go into alignment. And what I want to do here to make it easy to make sure everything's in sync is I'll bring the images together. This is up, down, and this is left, right. Okay, now it's not syncing. Okay, the face is pretty good. I see some differences here. So one thing I could try is hit automatic. This uses sound. So if you have a loud sound, like shout at the camera or a clap, sometimes I will, well, I'll dip my camera and bring it back up again to give me a point of reference to line these up. Let's try automatic. It didn't like that. So obviously the soundtracks didn't match up very well, or the sound wasn't loud enough. I'm having trouble with this. Okay, let's get rid of these. I'll bring them back in again real quick. There's left. Here's right. Properties. Left. Stereo pair. Didn't like that. I'm going too fast. There we go. Now I can do left, right. Okay. Okay, so now I'll go into alignment. Just click on here where I have. Okay, I'll bring them together. There we go. Okay. I'll actually use the little pistol. Okay. So now what I'll do is just work on space here. Click things till the images line up. A little trouble with this one. Okay, let's take a look. With my glasses on, okay, the sync looks pretty good. So you just click the frames till they line up. And then once you've done that, you put your glasses on and you could set your window with the left, right. Okay. And then once you save this, it will automatically crop the frames. So just go to Port Movie, Videos MPEG-4, and here you would go to however you want to export it. Anaglyph, side by side, half width, which is what you'd use if you wanted to put your video on YouTube. If you want to put it on YouTube, you also have to add metadata, but I don't have time to show that. I use the FFmpeg program to add my metadata. That's I don't really have time to go into that. Or complete width if you just want to show it on a 3D TV, or separate left-right images, or over-under. I'm going to do just complete width. Again, you pick your folder where you want it, and that's about really all. Once you've got your resolution, frame rate, that sort of thing. So, do I have a... So then you can play it, and then it crops it. So there you go. That's with a twin rig. So I'll get rid of these. Stop. Import. And I'll go to, I have a couple of trail cams. And I put them out in the field by my house and catch all kinds of things. These are both upright, so I don't have to do the rotation. Film that here, that here. And I'll grab the right camera. Now I have not figured out a way to sync the cameras electronically. So I rely on the motion sensor, which it's not a very good sync, as you would imagine. You know, something wanders into the frame of the left camera before it hits the right, one will start first. So what I do here is I take a look at my two images and I look for motion. So obviously the right camera started first. I will grab the top one. Why are these? They should not be linked together yet. Let's move them all and then see. Let's try this again. Let's give myself some space. See if this helps. It's tricky. Okay. There we go. So I can move this. I'll move this one. Okay. So now to move this one some more. There we go. Now it's cooperating. Okay. If you see here, this is where the deer starts turning his head. So I'll line these up together here. Okay, and then I will pick this frame. There we go. Now I'll link the two. Properties. Again, it's 3D pair, left image first. Okay, and again, I'll go to alignment. And shift frames sometimes works. And in this case, there was some sort of sound in the background. I can That's actually quite good. So let's put on our glasses. Yeah, that's good. So automatic worked for me here. If you have some sort of motion marker, that makes it easy to line up the images, the two frames. So here I got lucky. And then, of course, I can set my window. I can bring the deer out or push him back in. And that's pretty much it. So 2 independent cameras. If you don't have a way of syncing your cameras, you could start one and then the other. Do a clapper or a shout or some sort of motion, a wave to help you line up your images, and it'll work pretty well. Again, you have the transitions. You can set in a fade. And put in titles and everything we did with the still images. It's a nice program. It's fairly, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's not all that bad. There's all the other cropping, you have color correction, color, all these types of things. But I mean, you can get fancy with your perspective and your color corrections. I don't generally use these much. If like, here's another good one. One of my cameras is a little crooked, so you can adjust the rotation a little bit. Like, I'll go to the background, see if it's off. So yeah, that's a little bit off. So I may have to straighten one of these out a little. This one isn't too bad. Set this back to 0. That's good. So there you go. That's working with 3D and in Magix. If you have any questions, I'll be hanging around in GatherTown after this, and I'll do my best to answer. Like I said, I'm not a complete expert. This is what I'm familiar with. This is what I do the most. So anyway, thank you very much for listening.
Thanks very much, Greg. That was very
You're
enlightening.
welcome.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people now anxious to start using video editors.
If you have time on your hands.
I actually happen to use the same version of Magix that you just showed. So learned a few things. Thank you. And I haven't been able to watch the chat because I had this workshop video playing full screen on my computer. So that's
there were some questions about so somebody pointed out the fact that you have to get Magix Pro. You need to get the premium or the plus versions to get the 3D options. And I was even noticing that Greg has premium, I have pro, and you have more options than I have in that version. So premium may be where it's at.
It doesn't cost that much more either.
No. Steve, you had a question?
Yeah, I use Vegas Pro a lot, and it looks like almost everything they have, you have. But one thing that they have that I'm not sure is for keyframe of the convergence. I'm not able to keyframe, like if somebody goes closer, I can slowly change the window. So he's always at the window. Do you have anything like that in Magix?
Doing it in progress, I've never tried. I'm still fairly new with video and I'm still feeling my way through it. So I haven't gotten fancy. I started with just doing the slideshows. So, any other questions? I'll head to GatherTown and hit me up and I'll see what I can answer.
Thank you, Greg. Good workshop.
Okay, I just wanted two quick follow-ups from mine is that I didn't mention that the Looking Glass Factory does say they plan to add side-by-side conversion into the software at some point. And also there's the links I sent before in the chat are a Facebook group aimed at stereo 3D folks just for us. So check that out. And Greg, there was a question too about that FFmpeg code. Do you think we can get that posted on the website?
Yes. See if I can find where I found it. It's a little, well, once there's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you got it, it's easy. So I'll find the site and post it.
Cool. All righty. Well, let's meet in GatherTown. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Hey, I just want to remind everyone that the next session is the 3D theater, so that will not be in Zoom. To view the next session, you'll want to go to the YouTube channel, and you can get to the YouTube channel either by going directly to YouTube or by going to the convention website and clicking on YouTube on the main page or the theater page. And again, just as we did yesterday, the theater will have 2 streams. You want to choose the stream for the viewing method you're going to use. One is anaglyph for computers, phones, tablets, and so on. And the other is a side-by-side squeezed for 3D TVs, VR headsets, and projectors, other devices that can play back a side-by-side squeezed. And that will begin, you have a little bit of time, that will begin at 2 o'clock Pacific time.
I did want to add one thing. We do have Hawaiian shirt night tonight, I believe, in Gathertown. Phyllis might have more details, but get your Hawaiian shirts ready.
Yep, and we also have this feedback form that we posted today on the website. So down at the, it's on the website somewhere, though there's in the news, there is a feedback survey down toward the bottom. You can click on that, you can actually save it. And if you submit it and then you think of something later, you can always go back and change your answers if you want.
I just posted the FFmpeg link on chat.
Okay, and then maybe later we can get the actual code that you can put in to encode it into. I think it's frame-packing equals 3 is the crucial part.
Yes.
Cool.
Before we go, Dave, if you'd like, I have a little video clip of something I did for the Looking Glass portrait on a turntable.
Oh, sure.
So if we have a quick minute, I can show you that. So this was... So this was done at the Getty Center in their radiology lab. This is a 4-foot tall sculpture.
I muted Eric. Oh, someone's running stream. Is that me? Sorry, Eric. There was a feedback.
Okay, I'm back.
I'll get the feedback.
Okay, so that was something that I worked with the Getty Center. That's like a 4-foot tall sculpture, and in their radiology lab they have a turntable. So we actually did digital X-rays at 5-degree intervals on the turntable, and I put that all together as a quilt. Loaded it up onto the Looking Glass, and it looks really good.
Can you show it again?
Yeah, I can show it again.
Eric, it's not playing if you're playing it. Okay.
Neat.
Thanks.
Yeah. I wanted to show a cool thing of.
Oh.
Looks like maybe I host the Looking Glass doesn't like you to unplug it and plug it back in real fast. Okay, it's back on. If I share my screen, some people may have seen what's going on. Everything's frozen up. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm doing a screen share. So I talked about running a stream of about doing that light rail capture or doing a rail capture. So this JP Mezzavino has done these really cool images of nebula in they're all 3D modeled and everything, and he's got that great book. So I was looking at this and I thought this part right here is just a panning light rail or just a rail. So what I did is export these images, and then I made a looking glass quilt out of it. So I pulled every so few images, and then if the program wants to work with me here, then it will do it. And it's just running something. Right now, you don't want to see what's on the screen because it's very terrible. Okay. This is just the sync. It's syncing across. It does take a little while to sync your photos across, but for some reason, it seems to be a little. Because you have to set set what it is, and I called it an 8x4 quilt. So I have to say it is an 8x4. Okay, but I don't. Maybe it's actually going to be 4 columns by 8 rows. Okay, so now if I hold it up, and I may need to change some stuff. Let's see. So I'm going to try to turn it down. The aspect ratio is weird. Let me change that.
Dave, can you stop your screen share so we can see?
Oh yeah.
There you go.
I think I still need to tweak the aspect ratio a little bit.
Oh, that worked really well.
But yeah. I mean, you can really see like so. If I go down to the, let's change it to, so it's at -1. I don't know what that means, but make it be 2. Let's see, has that changed it any?
No, it looks the same.
Okay, maybe I'll make it be 1.
That adjusted it some.
Okay, this is, I think, more what it's supposed to look like. Oh, and if I can turn the light off, that's the bottom button or the top button? We'll see. You have 4 different kind of light settings. There we go. Yeah. So it's pretty neat. You can take different existing content and convert it.
And I'll say, looking at it through a webcam does not do it justice. You really need to look at it with 2 eyes in person to get the full effect.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Great. Dave Heiser, you want to hit the bumper? Is Dave ready with it? Sometimes
maybe we don't have a bumper this time around.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, in the interest of time, let's not do the bumper.
Well, people don't have to be here.
That 15 seconds will kill us. I'd also, as we go, when 3D Space reopens our museum here, I have a number of looking glass devices that will be on display because glasses free is COVID safe. So if you find yourself in the LA area when I've reopened and you want to check out the portrait and several of the previous models, I'll have those all on display.